Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me again this evening. Sorry that I'm a few minutes behind schedule, technical issues. Um, but I believe you can hear me. I believe you can hear me. Can we get started? Please go to the chat and tell me where you are joining me from. Go to the chat. Let me know where you're joining me from. I'm really excited for tonight and what we're about to share. Where are you joining me from? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, I'd like to know who is online and where are you joining me from. And I want to also be sure that you can hear me very clearly. I want to be sure you can hear me very clearly. Let me know where you're joining me from. Thank you. Where are you joining me from? Where in Nigeria? Where in Africa? Where in the world are you joining me from? I like to know Abakaliki. That is amazing. That is amazing. All right. I want to hear from more people. Where are you joining from? I'd like to know that um, you are here with me. So I'd like to know where you're joining from. And also, if you're a lecturer or a student, but you are a researcher, I'd like to know which institution. Which institution? It would be nice for us to connect, right? Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. All right, go ahead and share the link. Invite your colleagues. Tonight, we'll be discussing how to identify a good research problem for commercialization. A good research problem for commercialization. All right. All right. Emmanuel, good to have you from Polynekede. Thank you so much. First Technical University. Amazing. Amazing. All right. Ileife. Thank you. These are the champions. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining this evening. Go ahead and share the link. Let's have more people join us tonight, so that it's going to be a lot more engaging, a lot more interesting, a lot more lively, also, right? So I'll be expecting that um, many of us join us. A student of Air Force Institute of Technology, Kaduna. Amazing, amazing. Thank you, praise. All right, so tonight we are going to be discussing how to identify a good research problem for commercialization. Now, why do you do research? Why on earth do you start to do research? You're a researcher, but why do you? Is it to publish so that you get promoted? Is it because of the ribbon so that you get an award? Is it because of the gold so that you make money? Is it because of what? What is the reason why you go into research? How many of us go into research for the altruistic reasons to be the shoulder upon which the entire society would climb and get out of their problems and their pain points? Research is supposed to be to solve problems at every level, whether you be a student, undergraduate student, whether you be a master student, a PhD, a lecturer, a professor. Research is to solve problems. I've been saying this, and I just really hope that someday a critical mass of researchers in Nigeria would come to terms with this fact that research, the whole essence of research is to identify a problem worth solving and then solve it with your research. Until then, Nigeria cannot be said to be a knowledge driven economy. And this is the challenge we have today with our economy, simply because we have problems which our researchers have not applied themselves to solving, meaning our researchers have not found their place on the table, on the decision making table for economic development. We have not found our place. And this All right, sorry, there was a little disruption. I hope you can all hear me now, and also, yeah, hear me clearly. I hope. Good, fine, excellent. So, thank you for joining again. I was saying that there is a reason for research, and that reason is simply to solve problems. Is to solve problems, is to identify a problem worth solving in the society, and then systematically going through it towards developing a solution that is, well, worthwhile. Right. So this is the reason for research. This is the reason for research. And tonight we're going to be discussing how you come up with a research topic, with a good problem that you can solve for research commercialization purposes. In other words, how can you decide that problem that you would solve with your research? How do you decide that problem that you should solve with your research? Remember, I have just established that the reason and the singular purpose for your research is to answer critical problems that are relevant for solving a problem, to answer critical questions that are relevant for solving a problem. So then question becomes, how do you determine the good problem to solve? How do you determine the good problem to build your research around? That's what we want to discuss this evening. Characteristics of a good problem. How do you come up with that good problem that you should focus your research efforts around? Excellent. So you're welcome. And now this section is for everyone, whether you're an undergrad student, whether you are a lecturer, or whether you're a PhD student or a master student. You're welcome. So we're going to talk about 5 steps you need to take. 5 steps you need to take towards identifying a good problem. There are 5 steps. From the time you say, look, I want to do research, there are 5 things you want to do. There are 5 things you want to do, and just take notes of these 5. And ladies and gentlemen, I love to answer questions. I love to answer questions. Please do well to drop your questions as we ride on tonight, and I promise you I'm going to answer all your questions. Okay, fine. Now let's get into it. Number one thing that you have to do if you want to commercialize your research, number one thing you have to do with respect to identifying a good problem is to identify your area of interest. That's where it starts from. You cannot solve a problem that you don't have interest in, right? Yes, so please let us not um, neglect this very important factor. In fact, that's where it starts from. So you want to say, okay, I'm interested in doing this, and I want to attach it to purpose. When you understand your purpose for being, when you understand why you're here, why what you're supposed to be doing, what kind of problem you were created to solve, then that simply now tells what your interest is, right? The area of your interest, the area of your interests. That's something that um, you cannot go to bed and sleep normally with this problem lingering. So these are areas of your passion, areas of your interest, areas of your interest. Right. So that is something you want to first of all identify. Please never you embark in a research that you don't have interest or passion in. That is sad. That is sad. That's waste of your life, waste of your resources. Please pay attention to research that has to do with your area of interest. That is number one. Number two thing is for you to do what? Identify problems. Identify problems, identify opportunities, identify gaps in that area of your interests. In that area of your interest, in that area of your interest, identify what problems in that area, identify gaps, identify opportunities, identify problems in that area. And I kind of would like to give you some examples using agriculture and artificial intelligence. Let's say you're a PhD student and you want to delve into agriculture and AI. Agriculture and AI, this is your area of interest. This is your area of interest. I love agriculture, but I also love the fact that emerging technologies have come to be with us here. I mean, AI in the forefront. AI and agriculture. How do I build my research around this? So we're going to do that. Now, the first thing you want to do, as I said, is identify your area of interest, and you have identified AI and agriculture. The next thing you want to identify is what the gaps and the problems and opportunities within this AI and agriculture space, right? So 5 of them I identified. Number 1 could just be what? Crop disease and management. So you're thinking, how can AI be used to solve the problem of crop disease? And crop disease and management. How can AI be applied in crop disease and management? So that's number 1, right? Seeing that there are crop diseases a problem for farmers, how can AI be engaged and applied in solving crop diseases? Right, good. That's number 1. So number 2 can be what? Precision farming optimization. Precision farming optimization. So you're asking yourself, how can AI be applied in precision farming? How can we optimize farming by applying AI? Now that is the second area. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we're discussing agriculture and AI. That is your field of interest, and then we're looking at opportunities within this area. And I've identified 5 that we're going to look at. I've talked about number 1, which is what? Crop diseases, and their management using AI. Number 2 is what? Precision precision farming and optimization. Precision farming optimization. How can AI be applied in precision farming? Then number 3 is climate change resilience. Climate change resilience in agriculture. Climate change resilience in agriculture. This is number 3. Then number 4 will be what? Smart pest and weed management. Smart pest and weed management. How can AI be applied in smart pests and weed management, in weed and pest management? How can AI be applied in that? Then number 5 will be agricultural supply chain optimization. Agricultural supply chain optimization. Now the question is, you have outlined these 5 gaps, these 5 areas of opportunities and problem areas, and you're saying, which one of these can I get into? I mean, you looked at it. First of all, you started with your area of interest, AI and agriculture, and then you are identifying problems. You brainstormed, you did some research, costly research, and you identified these 5 areas. 5 areas identified. So what next do? You have to outline these areas. I chose 5, but it can be 5 to 10, it can be 6 to 12, right? Identify these areas. When you identify these areas, what is the next thing you're going to do? You are going to identify who owns this problem. Who is the target user? Who exactly do you want to solve this problem for? For each of these 5 problems you have identified, link them up immediately with the owner of the problem. Who is the owner of the problem? Who do you want to solve this problem for? Listen, there is no problem. Any problem you cannot identify someone that owns it is not a problem worth solving. Pay attention to this. And this is not a research you want to go into. Please. I keep saying this. This is the time for us to get into applied research. Gone are the days when you do just only basic research for publication's sake. In fact, the amount of basic research you should do should just be 20% of your research, right? So if that is the case, then for these problems identified, there has to be someone who owns them. Who owns these problems? Identify them. This is the third step in the process. Identify who owns this problem. When you have identified them, then let us establish what a synchronization between the need and the seed of innovation. Meaning, let us make sure there is a connection between these problems that you have identified and your expertise in solving them. That is what we call the seed of innovation. The resources available to you to solve them. The linkage is available to you to solve them, to research this problem, right? You cannot take up a project, a research project that you don't have the resources to address. You cannot take up a problem that you do not have the capacity to address. So, of these 5 problems now, you want to make sure that there is a synchronization between the seed, that is the resources available to you, and the need, that is the opportunity, the problem that you have found out there. Make sure there is a connection. Make sure there is a meeting point. Make sure there is a synchronization. The aspect of these problems you have to focus on are the aspects that you have the requisite resources and expertise and competencies to face on. See, so that is the next step. Make sure, ascertain that there is what a level of synchronization. Now, what is the next thing you do? You then have to rank these problems and choose one to solve. You're solving one problem at a time. Remember, by the time you are able to link up these problems to an end user, then the problems are no more just mere problems. They become pain points. Once you identify an owner of the problem, a clear owner of the problem then becomes a pain point. Your research now should be targeted at solving a pain point for an individual user. Yeah, and we call this person a user persona. Once your research is able to address the problem of one person squarely, completely, and adequately, then what happens is that we can extrapolate it and we can extend it to solving the problem of many more people who are similar to that one person. You have been able to solve their problem adequately. You see, that is how research is carried out. It must be relevant to a person. Remember that a problem, or a solution rather, that is meant for everybody is a solution meant for nobody. A solution meant for everybody is a solution meant for nobody. So that is why you're going to be as targeted as possible in defining who exactly you want to solve this problem for. Once this is addressed, then we get on to trying to choose one of these 5 problems. We have identified 5 problems we want to solve. 5 solid problems in the area of your interest. How then do we choose the one to solve? That's what we're here to do. I'm going to give you now 10 steps, 10 factors you have to pay attention to in determining the particular problem you want to build your research around. Are you ready with your pen and paper? Yes. So before I drop that, please go ahead, tell me where you're joining from, and drop any questions you may have. Let's tackle them. I see someone joining from Ogun State Institute of Technology, IDG, Federal Polytechnic, Oyo State, Ojubenga from Ekiti State Polytechnic. Thank you for joining. Federal University. Thank you, guys. All right. Okay, so thank you all for joining. Federal Polytechnic, Ayede Bumoshi, Oyo State. Thank you guys for all joining. So we're going to continue now. Federal Poly Nekede. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to outline for you now 10 steps or 10 factors you have to pay attention to as you evaluate to choose one problem to solve. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I call evaluation metrics. And it has to be scientific. How do you choose the exact problem to solve? All right. Now, I'm going to give you 10 characteristics of a good problem to solve. Number one. And okay, so before I go to them, remember, you're going to grade these um, five problems. You're going to kind of have an evaluation matrix to grade them, to score them. You're going to give them score, and then you choose the one that ranks the highest. Okay, very important. You just rank them and go for the one that ranks the highest, or go for the one that there is second to the highest, third to the highest, depending on what your resources are, what resources you have, what competencies you have, and what your research group is also interested in solving, or what your supervisor is also interested. But already you've identified these five that you have interest in anyway. So any one of these five, no problem. Any one of these five that you eventually going to solve, no problem. So number one factor is that a good problem should be addressing a gap in knowledge. You want to build your research around a problem that has some gap in knowledge, meaning that there are still some things that are not known about this problem. There are things that are not known about. So there is a scientific merit to solving this problem, because by the time you solve it, you add some knowledge out there that would help in what eventually creating a solution to the problem, right? So it's important that that is established. So you want to solve a problem that there is a gap in knowledge. If your research is around a problem that everything is known about the problem, so why are you researching it, right? So there has to be gap in knowledge. Number two. So gap in knowledge, you now grade all the problems and say, okay, fine, which one of these have gap in knowledge? You can give them a score. You can give them scores, right? Maybe three, right? Poor, intermediate, and highest, right? So something like that. So you just grade them that way: 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Anyone that has some level of gap in knowledge, can give them 3. You're not sure, you can give them 2. There is no gap in knowledge at all, you can give them 1. Like that, you just rank them and grade them. All right, so the next one is gap in execution. We may know everything about this problem, right? But we do not know how to solve the problem. There is no technology actually to solve this problem as it is today. So there is gap in execution. There are a number of problems out there today, but little is known on how it can be executed or implemented or solved in Nigeria, for example, right? So that becomes a problem that is worth solving, because your research may be able to now answer the research questions around the execution or the solving of this problem. So that becomes a problem you want to solve, because you then have clear research questions around the implementation, the execution of this problem. So that can become it, right? There is gap in execution. And sometimes when we talk about gap in execution, you see that problem may have been solved in India, it may have been solved in Indonesia. And then you're looking, okay, but it has not been solved in Nigeria. Yeah. So for that reason, you may consider that, you may score it 2 in that sense, right? Because it has been solved somewhere else. But it has not been solved in Nigeria. So you can give it a score of 2. But if it has nobody has attempted solving this problem at all, we don't know how to solve this problem, right? Today we are discussing, okay, who actually knows the cure to, let's say, HIV, right? That's your research. You're coming up. How do we cure HIV? Now, nobody is talking about cure of HIV anywhere in the world today. So there is gap in execution. But almost everything we need to know about HIV may have been known, right? So, but there is gap in execution. So we now say that we're going to score it what 3. But if this problem is already solved in a place in other clients, you can score it 2. But if it has not been solved, but if it has been solved in Nigeria as well, you can score it 1. So gap in execution. The third thing is that it has to affect humanity. A good problem is a problem that has relevance to humankind. Relevance to humankind. You want to solve a problem that when you solve it, it affects somebody that is a human. The more the problem affects man, the more the problem affects human beings, the more relevant is it to solve that problem, the more urgent it is to solve that problem. So you want to ask yourself, of these problems, to what extent do they affect man? To what extent are the different dimensions and aspects of this problem affect man, right? So that is a problem to solve. Then we go to the number 4 now, right? Yeah, number 4. You want to solve a problem that has magnitude, right? The more the number of people affected by this problem, the more it is relevant for us to solve this problem, right? So you want to solve a problem that many people are affected by. So remember, we came up with 5 problems. To what extent are people suffering this problem? The more people are suffering this problem, the more we should solve it. The more we should solve it. So you ask, remember the 5 problems I outlined. There is crop disease, there is precision farming, there is climate change, there is pest and weed management, and there is the supply chain. Which of these really affects many people, right? So you can just say, okay, fine. Maybe if it is crop diseases, maybe it's pests, right? So it's up to you. From your research, you then know. Say, okay, fine. This affects more people. I'm going to go for it. That is a characteristic of a good problem. Now, based on that, you score. Then the next one is what a good problem has to be growing in size, right? So you don't want to solve a problem that is stagnant. It's no more. It has plateaued. It's no more growing. It may even be dwindling, right? That is not the problem to solve. That's not the problem that you want to, that's not the best problem to solve, right? So you want to solve a problem that is growing. So the way the problem is today is not the way it's going to be tomorrow. Think about climate change, for example. This is a problem that we know for sure that tomorrow the effects of climate change may really be more severe than we have it today. So this is a problem that is worth solving. You know what I mean? This is a problem that is worth solving. This is a problem that is worth solving. The problem of climate change in agriculture is a problem then you can focus your research around. Good. Now, that is characteristic number, I think, 4 now, right? Good. So what is the next characteristics of a good problem to solve? A good problem is urgent. A good problem is urgent. I would expect that you look at a problem of these 5 problems you have outlined. There is one that is quite urgent, or you can grade them based on their urgency. Which one are the owners of the problem trying as much as possible to solve it? They cannot live. They cannot live without having this problem solved. They are breaking the laws to solve this problem. This is a problem you should want to solve. Lives are being lost because this problem exists. This is a problem you want to solve. This is a problem you want to solve. So it is a good characteristic, it's a characteristic of a good problem. A problem that is urgent. Don't solve a problem that people do not have a compelling reason to relate to or to acquire your solution eventually. That is one of the reasons why your solution will remain with you in your laboratory. Right? Yes, so you want to solve a problem that is urgent. The more urgent that problem is, the more relevant it is, and the more you should build a research around it. Gone are the days when people do research for doing sake. I keep saying this. There is no reward for doing research for doing sake apart from promotion. But I want to shock you. If you do research for demand purposes, you even have more publications. You have more publications. That's what I want to assure you. And I think maybe sometime in the future we're going to discuss the publication opportunities in demand-driven research. Yes, you have more opportunities that way to publish. That's true. And you publish very original articles. Very original articles. Okay, let's continue. Now, the number 6 characteristics of a good problem is that a good problem should be recurrent. It should be recurrent. You want to solve a problem that, yeah, you solve it today, create a solution to ameliorate it today, but tomorrow it's still a relevant problem. In other words, most times you may not want to get into a problem that has a final solution to, like you create a solution to it and it's over. That is why problems, the pharmaceutical industries thrive a lot in this. They keep solving problems that are chronic, and they neglect problems that are not chronic, especially infectious diseases. You can solve, and you see what happens is, for infectious disease, vaccines can help to prevent the severity of such infections. Vaccines can help you to live without the impacts of those and complications of those infections. But what happens is, for communicable diseases, these conditions live with us. What pharmaceutical companies then do for non-communicable diseases, I'm talking about now, I'm talking about diabetes and hypertension. They create drugs, they create drugs that would prolong the life of the individual without necessarily solving the cause, or without necessarily solving that problem. And that's a wonderful problem to solve, because then you become and remain relevant in solving it. You remain relevant in solving it, right? So these are like climate change. I don't know that anybody is going to solve the problem of climate change today, tomorrow, or in the future, right? So these are problems that have come to stay, and they are wonderful problems. So you keep solving in the different dimensions of this problem. Powerful problems to solve. Yes. All right. So that is a characteristic of a good problem to solve. The next one, I think I'm now number 7. A good problem is difficult to solve. A good problem is difficult to solve. So you don't want to solve a problem that is so easy. Your reward will not be much. Yeah, because the more difficult the problem is, the more your reward. The more your reward. So you want to solve a problem that is difficult. That's why you do a PhD, to solve a problem that is difficult. Don't go solving problems that are very basic. Crack difficult problems. Crack difficult problems with your research. Now, that is number 8. So number 9, number 9 now, you want to solve problems that are measurable. Problems that are measurable. it's not advisable that you go to solve a problem that you don't even know how close you are to solving it, or how you're progressing in solving it, and the impact of your solution cannot be felt, right? So you want to solve a problem that is measurable. Make sure that we can assess the impact of your research efforts in solving that problem. Very important. Then let's go to the next one and the last one. Good problems are accessible. Okay, let me put it this way. So you want to solve problems that the owners of such problem are accessible. The owners of such problems are reachable by to you. The owners of such problem, you have access to them. Data to solve such problem is accessible to you. That is a good problem to solve. Let's say you want to solve a problem from a problem of corruption. Let's talk about corruption. In solving the problem of corruption, you find out that you are going to run into a problem if you're solving this problem from the suburbs, right? You're solving it from the suburbs, from one village. Your school is located in one village in the country, and you're not close to the city where public transactions happen. That's public sector transactions happen. You're not close to Abuja, where a lot of policies are made, right? Where the National Assembly is, where the executive sits. Now, you will not be able to access data that will be relevant to solving this problem. You'll not be able to access data that will be relevant to solving this problem. So I would advise that a good problem is such that you have access to the owners of the problem. You have access to the owners of the problem. Very important. This will be the characteristics of a good problem, of a good research problem for commercialization. Once you're able to solve these problems, you are right on your way towards creating a solution that a people will need, towards creating a solution that will not remain with you in your laboratory or just on the pages of the journal, right? No. Please focus on solving a problem that matters. Sometimes, I must say this, that sometimes the problems that will emerge, the problems that you solve and the solutions and recommendations that will emerge from your research may not necessarily bring money to you, right? But they can solve a problem in the society. So what you do is to find a way in which the findings and the results of your research can be can be adapted to solve real problems in the society. That is where you can create policy briefs. That is where you can, go out there and build something that a policymaker, the government, and its agencies can find useful in solving their problems. Very important. I want to see a situation where more researchers are relevant in policy development. More researchers are relevant in crafting the course of the economy of Nigeria. And this is very important because now you do research, you come up with empirical evidences. This can help us in solving our many problems. So don't just do research and put it in the page, leave it in the journals, in the pages of the journals, because our policymakers, most often than not, do not have access to these publications that you make. So you put in a simple policy brief in a language that they will understand, and this may require some scientific communication skills, so that your research will become relevant. And in most other cases, let it be something that will yield a product that the end users would find very valuable, for which they will not mind to exchange money for. Please, please, that is the research mandate of the present time we have found ourselves. The present time we have found ourselves. So Nigeria really requires the contribution of, Nigeria needs the contribution of researchers and our lecturers. So please apply yourself, and I'm always available to support in any way possible. Just reach out to me and we make that happen. So one of the things I want to start doing now in order to keep this conversation going is to start a newsletter. So if you would like to be part of the newsletter, just somehow make sure that in the next 48 hours you have already subscribed to the newsletter. It is free. It is free, but make sure you reach out to me some way, somehow, right? Make sure you reach out to me and then subscribe to the newsletter, so that you're going to start getting some case studies of other people like you who are already commercializing their research, and also understand some of the challenges they may be facing. And then you're going to also learn from me some of the trends in research commercialization, global trends and regional trends, all right? And some concepts that you may need to know towards commercializing your research. So please make sure you are able to subscribe to this newsletter. It's free for now, right? Yes. So thank you so much for joining. I want to take a question. Does anyone have a question? You want to ask a question on how you want to, choose a problem for your research, or any question at all on research commercialization? I'll be glad to answer. Thank you, all of you that have been able to join this. Please join me again this same time tomorrow, because today was actually designed for students, PhD students, master students, undergrad, but tomorrow is specifically for lecturers. But of course, if you're a student, you can also join. Tomorrow is for lecturers, and we are going to be understanding the research commercialization roadmap. Yes, research commercialization roadmap. There is this whole roadmap for research. I've never really thought this topic in my various sections and platforms of forum, such as R4I. I have not taught this. So try as much as possible to be available tomorrow 8 p.m. for us to have this conversation. What is the actual roadmap to research commercialization? I'm going to be giving this away tomorrow to those that will be joining. All right. So enjoy your weekend. I see there's no question coming up, but feel free. You all have access to my WhatsApp group, and you're in my WhatsApp groups. So reach out to me with any questions, and I'll be happy to answer. All right. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.